Hey everyone, this is Ryder from Skip. It's Thursday, February 11th. Very quick video today on new news from the SBA on the PPP program, some of the improvements they've made and what to do if you are still waiting for your PPP approval, and a quick look at the stimulus check legislation. This is the legislation passed earlier this week that talked about the $1,400 stimulus checks and the $3,000 per child tax credit. I'm going to talk about what that means. I covered this in detail, but I'm going to give a high-level summary of this and the rest of the important news as it relates to EIDL grants, PPP loans, and more. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing. Let's dive in. So I'm going to cover these three areas because so many of you continue to have questions, and there's been a few big updates, including this right here that I talked about yesterday. This is the actual text from the House Committee on Ways and Means that recommended that the earnings threshold stay at $75,000. And there is also the child tax credit, that's a $3,000 per child information here as well. So I will give a quick recap of what's in here, but this is the good news. This is the actual legislation that's been put forth that we expect will pass in the Senate as well, and this will become part of the law. Obviously, we have a little bit of ways to go here. I'm going to talk about that and this news right here from the SBA. SBA and lenders take steps to improve the PPP program. They've released some more data and information this morning. This just came out, by the way, so this is breaking news. And finally, what to do if you're still waiting to hear back about your PPP application. We covered this in a post that's now live on our blog and app. Thanks so much for subscribing and supporting us. Let's start here. What to do if you're still waiting to hear back about your PPP application. You know, we've helped tens of thousands of people apply through our partner lenders, and many of you are still waiting. It's a steady trickle. So I just want to mention this post very quickly to help give you some peace of mind if you are still waiting. Number one, make sure you have fully completed the application and submitted enough documentation. That sounds obvious, but in many cases there are small things missing. Depending on the lender you've gone through, they may or may not have emailed you about this. So it's good to keep an eye on your email. For example, we know that our partners, Funding Circle, Credibly, and Bluevine will all send emails typically if you're missing something. And most of those have a dashboard as well where you can log in and it'll say you're all set, it's in review, or you have to submit a couple documents. So that's of course the baseline. Just make sure you've submitted everything. Sometimes that includes the payroll documentation. They need a different form of payroll documentation. So that's number one. Number two, if you find that you're missing something or you have questions and you've been waiting a while, get in touch with your lender, not the SBA. Okay, most people are aware of this, but just wanted to clarify this in a post here, that the lenders are the ones that give out the money, so you need to contact your lender, say, hey, what's going on? Have you sent it to the SBA? Is there a backlog or not? For the vast majority of you, it's just be patient. It's still a waiting game. Lenders have received millions and millions of applications, as we know, as I've talked about, and they're getting through the backlog. And sometimes, if there are edge cases, and they need to manually review your application, which happens a lot of times. Maybe there's an information mismatch from what they had on file or something like that. They will have to manually review, and that just takes time. So there's no way around it. So I just want to say, I know it's stressful because the advantage of the PPP program is you can often get the money within a couple weeks. For some of you, it's been a couple weeks or a few weeks and you're still waiting. Just be patient. I'm optimistic more loans will be approved this week and next week. And if you still don't hear next week and you applied a few weeks ago, get in touch with your lender. Obviously, it can't hurt to be a little proactive. And of course, the other recommendation is if you are still waiting, and I don't say this lightly, but you may want to consider applying with another lender. The case may be the person you applied with first has too much volume, so try another lender. It can't hurt. I'll leave links to our three partner lenders in the description, or go to trackpploan.com. That's directly to our Bluevine application, but Funding Circle and Credibly applications are in the description as well. So something to think about. Now, before I talk about the stimulus check news, this just came out. SBA and lenders take more steps to improve PPP. This is good news. I mean, the SBA is patting themselves on the back, but it's worth mentioning to you because I always want to give credit to the SBA when I think that they're doing a good job of making improvements. So here are the highlights. The SBA hit a major milestone of approving $103 billion in PPP funds to more than 1.4 million small businesses this week. Highlights from this round include the following, these three highlights. Reaching more of the smallest businesses, and I showed that data a couple days ago, by the way, that the vast majority of applications, 70% plus, are $50,000 or less. 82% of all loans going to businesses requesting less than $100,000. Okay, that just underlines that first point I made. Reaching rural communities in a meaningful way. 28% of businesses who have received funding this round are in rural communities. And I talked about that last week. Rural communities had an advantage. They had a head start, and we covered that on the blog because they were able to apply early through community lenders or smaller banking institutions. Those folks had an early start, so a lot of them were funded first. The third point here is the SBA's increased partnerships with CDFIs and minority depository institutions, who are trusted agents in extending economic relief to minority communities and underserved populations. The main point here is that folks in minority communities or underserved populations are getting more access, quicker access to the PPP round. And that was part of the design of this program. So it's good to see some of the results here. Now, 3 points that the SBA talks about that, if you are still waiting, may improve your process. I want to briefly say here, number one, the SBA is enabling lenders to directly certify eligibility of borrowers for first and second draw loan application to ensure that businesses who need funds and are eligible receive them as quickly as possible. Number two here, the SBA allows lenders to upload supporting documentation of borrowers with validation errors during the forgiveness process. Number three, the SBA has created additional communication channels with lenders to assure they are constantly improving equity, speed, and the integrity of the program, including an immediate national lender call to brief people on the platform's capabilities. So, bottom line, it's more communication, trusting the lenders more, having the lenders do the heavy lifting. That's a good thing. You get trusted lenders. The SBA doesn't need to be a bottleneck. It's the lenders who are going to look at your application and verify it and send it off to the SBA. I'm going to link to it above, but this is very interesting to see. It's the legislation text for the $1,400 stimulus checks, and it specifically says earnings thresholds. I mean, in this case, it's $75,000 or below will get the full amount, $150 for joint filing, phasing out at $100,000 or $200,000 respectively. And it talks about who will get the child tax credit, the CTC. That's $3,000 per child or $3,600 for a child under age 6, to be given out either monthly or every other month payments. That's up to the discretion of the Treasury on how they're going to give out the payments. And to end our video today on the good news, vaccination progress going well, cases, deaths, hospitalizations still all down. Again, it's looking like this rolling 7-day average is going to finally get under 100,000, perhaps tomorrow or the next day. We'll keep you posted there. As always, thank you so much for subscribing and tuning in. I hope that was helpful. And if you find it helpful, feel free to share with a friend and, of course, give this video a like. Stay well, stay healthy, and we'll see you tomorrow.